Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Bad Times, Good Stories podcast, and Merry Christmas! My name is Joe Flanders, and I am thrilled to have you here on a Christmas edition of Bad Times, Good Stories. I am still in Ohio, and it's kind of cold. It's very cold. It's really fucking cold. But I'm glad to be back, glad to be home with the family, and glad to share with you one of my favorite all-time episodes of the show that was released over 3 years ago. I'm talking about episode number 2 with Hallie Cooper, and we are talking about potentially the most awkward conversation she ever had to have with her parents, thanks to some sexually explicit activities that happened while she was in middle school at a movie theater. So it was a lot of fun. I had a great time going back and listening to this episode. Next week I'll be doing a flashback episode 2, and then once we get into the new year, be full steam ahead with new episodes. But I think this episode may not be available to most iTunes people. I'm not really sure why. Like I said, this was the second episode we ever did, and I'm guessing maybe a lot of you haven't listened to it or even knew about it. So I wanted to share it with you. I laughed a lot, as did Hallie and my former co-host, Andrew Porter, who I believe I mentioned when I first brought this show back. He is on a mission to Mars, and I haven't heard from him. So hopefully he's doing okay. But when you hear a third voice that's not mine or the guest, that is my dear friend Andrew, and I hope you enjoy it. If you do, just write us a review. As always, you can check out badtimesgoodstoriespod.com for past episodes, merch, and a link to the Patreon page. If you're feeling particularly generous in this holiday season, feel free to donate to the show. Really appreciate it. But if not, that's cool too. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And without further ado, here is Hallie Cooper.
There was a guy near us in West Hollywood that had a couple of parrots.
Yeah, the bald man.
Yeah, the bald man with parrots, and he would come out every now and then with his parrots on his shoulders.
Yeah, and I tried to get a picture one time. I tried to play it really cool, like I wasn't taking a picture, which you can't do.
Yeah.
And
did he seem offended?
Well, I didn't look at it or him. I just took a couple and then went inside to look at the pictures. And then when I
look at the goods.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to play it cool here with Parrot Man.
So,
and then I looked at the pictures. And then I looked at, I moseyed. I casually just nothing to see here. And then I went inside, and he was staring right at me at all of the pictures with the death stare. I was like, whoa.
That works.
You saw what I was up to.
Well, you shouldn't be offended when he walks outside with a bunch of parrots on his shoulder.
Yeah, people are going to want to get pictures of that.
Oh, he shouldn't be offended.
Yes.
I thought you were saying I shouldn't be.
No,
I wasn't.
No, you have no reason to be offended.
No, I wasn't. Yeah.
You've done nothing wrong.
No, I have done nothing wrong. If you're going to do something crazy in public, you have to deal with the fact that people may see you.
This is true.
Yeah. What did you do in public, Hallie?
Yeah.
Yeah, the segues are great. What I did in public. I gave head in a movie theater in 8th grade.
That's not in public. That's a little bit in public.
It's pretty public.
That's pretty public.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah,
This
on
very
Valentine's
promising.
Day.
On Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
with a guy that you'd been dating for years and you just wanted to consummate the relationship, right?
Nope.
Oh. Okay.
I wish it was that romantic, but this was step 1 of Hallie's love life failing, so I should have known.
Oh,
yes.
fun.
Yes.
Good times. This is just a harbinger of
So
what's
this is the
to
first
become.
step.
Yeah. What's so wait, how long had you been seeing this 8th grader? this other 8th grader. You were in 8th grade too. Let's make it. Yeah.
We had been dating, I don't know, like a week.
Oh, that's pretty serious in 8th grade.
It was we were going steady, as people say back in the Bye Bye Birdie days.
Yeah. You went to go see Pygmalion and
Well, I mean, honestly, this was our first date, quote unquote date. So
Was
clearly I
Valentine's?
put out.
Wait, your first date was Valentine's Day? That
Yes.
Was, okay.
Yes, we had been like talking and AIMing and
That's a constant
Yeah,
theme.
it's a real
It really
thing.
is. Yeah.
and playing soccer together because I was one of the only girls that played soccer with the guys at school. So that made me cool. You know,
Yeah,
so we,
that'll do it.
Bonded over that.
Yeah.
But we had known each other for years. You know, I think since at least third grade.
Okay.
And we start kind of hanging out a little bit around school, you know,
Okay.
like by the lockers or, you know, having lunch
cafeteria,
together
yeah.
on the
Lunch together.
bleachers, that whole thing. So, like, I guess we were doing that for like a week or two. And then it was finally like, let's go see a movie. Let's go out in public, you know, as a couple, as a team.
Yeah.
But I remember I didn't even tell any of my friends that I was doing this because I was
Okay.
kind of ashamed. They're going to be like, Hallie, you're an idiot, which I should have listened to. He, at this point in 8th grade, I remember very clearly, he said to me like that he had had sex with a few people at this point. And I was like, oh,
Was that true? Was that a
no
yeah.
idea. To this day, I have no idea. I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't be. If you saw him, you'd think it's not true. And so, you know, there's a pity factor that I felt for this person.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, let's hang out. Let's go on a date. So on Valentine's Day, we go to the movies. My mom drops us off at the local AMC.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we go into a movie, and I don't remember what it was, but we were sitting in the movie theater kind of like chatting-ish the whole time. And like, I don't know, like his hand was on my leg and you're like, oh, like that kind of energy going on. And he says to me as we're walking out of the first movie with people all around, I want to go down on you. And I'm 13.
Yeah.
And I barely know what that is
Yeah.
because the only thing I had done at this point was let my best friend fill me up in a closet at a bar mitzvah.
Was it the guy was it his bar mitzvah? No. Was that like your gift to him? He became a man and you.
Oh, that's fine. No,
Yeah.
it was not. He's not even Jewish.
Holy shit! Everyone's just kind of swindlers here that are just.
Was the party just kind of lame?
No.
Like,
It wasn't this kid's bar mitzvah. It was my best friend. We were at a bar mitzvah of somebody else. It wasn't he was pretending to be Jewish and got it. Was that clear? I just wanna make sure
that was clear.
is
No, that was clear. My thing is that he just was not Jewish, went to bar mitzvah, and then felt the girl up, and then.
Well, I kind of invited him to.
Really? Okay.
It was totally my idea.
Could you elaborate?
Sure. I was the first girl of my friends to be like sexually curious. And like this started when I was like a year old. I used to ask my parents questions. They were like, where is she getting this from at like age 4? I said, how do 2 women make a baby? And they're like, okay. So I was very curious from a very young age. And so that started coming about in middle school when most kids are still very uncomfortable with that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And I'd gotten to the point where I was like, I'm great with exploring touching and that's cool, you know, but that only meant like holding hands or like hugging for a long period of time.
Intimate hugging. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And my best friend, this guy, Kyle Draper, we called him Draper. We had like dated for 2 weeks back in like 6th grade. And then we broke up. And like 2 minutes later, I was trying to set him up with my other friends. Like we were very close. And so like it made sense that the first sexual thing I would do was with him. And he was just a horny little kid who didn't know what to do with himself. And so we were at this bar mitzvah and we were both kind of like flirting and being stupid. And I like you do in 7th grade.
I would love to have heard what that flirting
Oh,
was.
same here. Yeah.
Was he
Probably
just
like
walking
doing
around
the
with just a
electric
hard on?
slide, you know.
Strut.
Or he just
I don't think he was
hard.
walking around with a hard on, but just boobs was all I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I have like none of, so it's ironic as well. But I was like, come here, you're horny and I'm fine with this. So we like went.
doing God's work.
Yeah, seriously.
So we like went down a hall, went into some like coat closet or whatever. And I was literally like, okay, here. And I lifted my shirt like away from my body. I didn't lift it straight up. I just lifted it away. And he just like slowly put his hand up. And I was
Yeah.
like, do it.
Jesus.
I was like, it's okay. And he did it. And he was like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, it's great. There you go. And then our friend like opened the closet door.
No.
Yes.
No. Like right when it was happening?
Like right when it was happening. But my shirt was still like down. I can't hear myself suddenly. That's weird. There we go. My shirt was still down. It wasn't lifted up completely. So my friend, and it was our other best friend, so we all just laughed about it, and it was like,
and that didn't
no
get around.
big deal. No. Nobody else really knew. It was just kind of like, we understand how
Friends
close
being
we are,
friends,
like whatever. Yeah, like early friends with benefits.
Yeah.
You know, like way early.
The old boob touch.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so that was the only thing I'd ever done.
And now all of a
sexually.
sudden this
No kiss.
kid's-
Like kiss anybody? Or
I had kissed
Okay.
people. I mean, yeah, and I had kissed people in the situation of like, oh, we're like kind of dating and we like each other, but then also like, you know, spin the bottle kind of
Okay.
situation.
Yeah.
So he says to me,
So we're back in the movie theater.
as we're
Yeah.
walking out of the movie theater, I want to go down on you. And I have an idea of what that is, but in public, I'm like, well, surely that can't happen. And I'm like, no, I don't even really, no, we can't. And he was like, no, I really, really want to. I was like, well, I'm also on my period, so I really don't. He's like, I don't care. I was like, I definitely care.
Jesus.
Definitely care. And suddenly I'm feeling very out of my element.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't want to completely be like, no, this is crazy and like leave, because I want to like be cool.
Yeah.
You know,
You're
and
just
feel it
this
out.
is a week or two in. on
Yeah,
this
oh,
thing,
yeah.
So you want to
honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Want to let it ride.
Right.
So he was like, well, let's keep hanging out. Let's see a second movie. I'm like, oh, okay. So I text my mom, like, we're going to double dip, because that's what we used to call seeing two movies in a row. Come pick me up later. She's like, sure, that's fine. So we go into the movie Dark Blue, which I think is rated R, and I don't know how
Dark
we
Blue.
snuck in. I don't know what it's about. Honestly, the only image I have is a poster with some sort of blue wave going on, but I don't think it's a sea movie. Like,
It wasn't deep,
That's
deep blue
It's not
sea.
deep blue. It's dark blue.
Dark
I'm gonna
blue.
look it up.
right.
But,
Oh, right.
okay, so
That is right.
How
Yeah.
many
Deep
people?
sea divers.
How many people were in the movie theater?
Good question, Andrew. If I had been sitting in the main movie theater, I could have answered that question. But instead, we walked in, we went and like sat down for a second, and then very quickly got up and went into an aisle. So you know how like when you walk into a movie theater, you can turn left or right to go down an aisle, and then you go down one more aisle, and then you're like in the seats.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
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 It's kind of confusing, but
Right.
we were in one of those aisles. Well, and so we weren't even watching this
Did
movie.
he lead you to the aisle?
Yes.
Okay,
He thought
did he
that would
just
be a
take your
good
hand?
place to go. I don't remember how he got me there, but I think he was like, here, let's go somewhere more private.
Yeah, in this very public place.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that makes sense, you know, this dark aisle.
Naturally.
Naturally. And so we went there to chat. And he was telling me that instead of him going down on me, since I seemed so against this beautiful idea,
Yeah.
why don't I go down on him? And I don't even think I'd definitely not given a hand job at this point. Hand jobs freak me out. I think they're kind of pointless, to be honest. Yeah. And so I had seen a penis maybe, but like not really know what to do with it. Probably like with just a guy friend at a pool or something, like accidentally when his like bathing suit fell out. Like not in a sexual situation had I ever been near a penis, let alone thought about it close to my mouth. And he's saying to me, well, you know, for your first time, you know, going down on somebody, I think this would be a really meaningful experience. And I said, well why?
Hell. Fuck this guy.
Oh, no,
Damn it.
he's a fucking idiot, but he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I said, well, like, why would it be so meaningful? You know, and he's like, because of how much we mean to each other.
Jesus.
Which I'm sure you just ate up.
I did.
Yeah.
I did, because I didn't get male attention until I was like 19. That's when I finally like got kind of attractive. And so at this point I was like, oh, someone likes me. And I mean, I have common sense, I like to believe.
Yeah.
But I did not exercise it in this moment.
Fuck, well, yeah, that's such a shit thing. That's such
It
a
is.
shit thing toying with.
It is.
That's
and I totally bought it.
Yeah.
Like totally bought it.
Well,
I was
sense. It makes sense. This was your first interaction,
Exactly.
like real, attention from a guy, and you were feeling validated and like, okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And too thinking like, well, he's had other sexual experiences before,
Right.
but like he's picking me. That must mean that like I'm worth it.
You're
to
the
some
lucky one.
extent. I'm honored.
Yeah.
I should be.
You can't
honored.
let him down.
Right? No, I don't want to disappoint. And that's another thing. I really didn't want the attention to go away.
Right.
Of course. No.
Yeah.
That's
So I thought this
huge
is
part
the
of it.
way in, And eventually he convinced me. He was like, this is really going to be good and
Amazing
meaningful
for
and
you
important
and-
for us.
So he was pitching it like you're gonna change forever after this. You're gonna
Well, like we are as a team.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're going to get closer and I'm going to always be able to look back on this as a really, really meaningful moment in my life. Well, he was right about that.
yeah.
Here we are.
I was gonna say he wasn't totally full of shit. I guess.
No, he's a wise man. So he as he's convincing me, he's unbuttoned his pants too. So it's like, it's not even like he's really waiting for me to say yes or no. He's
Right.
like in it to win it.
Yeah,
He's gonna convince me no matter
He
what.
already knew that you were convinced before he was done with the sentence.
It wasn't an option for
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Right.
I think,
Well, how does an eighth grader have that much fucking confidence?
I don't know. I don't
insane
know.
to me.
Because too, if you knew him, he didn't seem like this kind of guy, which is also why I believed that this had to be an innocent sort of thing. So he whipped it out, and I was terrified, and I didn't
of course.
understand what to do. And I remember as I was kind of leaning
Were you both
down.
standing?
No, we were sitting.
Okay.
You
That's
were
important.
sitting in the okay.
We were sitting. He was sitting against the wall, and I was in front of him, sitting kind of Indian style, but then as I leaned down, I did not stay in Indian style because that is awkward and strange, but the whole thing was awkward and strange.
Well, yeah.
This is all
Awkward and strange.
Do you remember what your gut instinct was or your reaction when he whipped it out and it was just the first one that you saw? You're just like, oh.
To be
Was it
honest,
circumcised? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I don't remember. He is Jewish though.
Yeah, that's that's a
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just curious. 'Cause
I do remember the first uncircumcised penis I saw was in college, and that was a very clear. Oh, that's different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I don't remember thinking that with this, but it was the first one I was that close to,
Right.
so I don't really
No
have
frame
any
of
Had you
reference.
not at this point had you watched porn at all? Did you see any porn at all? Did you know? Or you completely new to this type of situation?
Completely new. The only
okay.
porn I'd ever seen was one thing in 5th grade when I went over to my best friend Sarah's house, and she was like, "Look, my brother left this on our computer. You have to check it out." And I was like, oh, "Okay." And it was just a video, no talking at all, just
It was an old silent. It was an old Buster Keaton. It was just,
piano
no. It was
playing,
basically
title cards.
yeah.
camera going very slowly, left to right across a tennis court, and people just fucking on the tennis court. That's it.
It sounds like a Monty Python sketch more than a porn. It sounds like a
Well, and to
weird-
make it better, the only thing they were wearing were shoes and socks. Everybody.
Yeah, well,
Well, when you're on the
Country-
court,
yeah.
yeah.
Blacktop's hot.
country
Yep.
clubs do have requirements, dress
Yes.
codes.
There's standards,
And there were benches that people were either sitting or laying on, or they were fucking just standing. But I remember seeing one, this is impressive, seeing one guy on his back, a girl on top of him on her back being fucked in the ass by him, and then a guy standing over fucking her in the pussy. And I was
Oh, nice.
that was just blows my mind with physics. How, at 10, I was 10 years old when I saw this.
That was the first,
the first-
and only.
So that was
Up
your
to this
that was your
point.
only frame of reference to what
God.
sex is and dicks.
Oh,
and
God.
things.
I had
Okay,
heard my
all right.
parents having
Basically,
sex at
Where's
one point, but that
Waldo
was it.
of porn? Okay.
Okay,
Crazy.
so he whips it out.
So he whips it out, and I'm like, okay, I guess this is love.
This is it.
Stars in her eyes.
Yes. And I just kind of go down there and
man.
kind of pick it up, put my hand on it.
Pick it up. What?
I don't really know what that means, but
Me neither.
I guess just
like dirty
making.
laundry.
Yeah, like a bag, like an old bag of grain, and you just gotta haul up a hill. I picked it up.
I put my hand on it. It's I guess
Okay,
more
yeah,
accurate,
okay.
and I put my mouth on it. But I didn't understand how the tongue should be involved at all, and I didn't know rhythm. I knew nothing about rhythm.
Sure. Like Steve Martin and the Jerks, just trying to stick to the beat here.
Right.
I doubt he gave a shit. I doubt he. I think he's just ecstatic in his mind.
I don't know. I don't know about that because
Who the fuck is this 8th grader? This is lying to folks and doing. Jesus Christ.
I was trying to figure out if like the hand rhythm should go at the same speed and everything with the mouth, and so I was like kind of jolting and different. Like I don't know what I was doing,
Convulsing.
And
Meanwhile, people are in there watching Dark Blue going, what the hell is that noise? Who's thrashing on the ground over there?
Thankfully, they didn't care enough to get up, presumably.
And that's another thing. I was very scared that someone was going to walk by.
Sure.
Yes, they could
a logical fear.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember saying, like, let me know if you see anyone walking. And he was like, oh, I will. But it's like, it would be too late at that point.
Do you think anybody did come in and you just didn't see him?
I've thought about that for years, honestly. And if someone did see us, they could have just turned around and walked through the other aisle and left on the other side and been like, fuck that, not going to deal with that.
I just can't imagine coming across that. An adult coming across you. Oh, shit.
Two small children.
Okay. I'm moving. I'm getting the fuck out of this town. Shit.
Right.
Did you suggest any time at this point to maybe you should go sit like in the back row or something?
No, that wasn't on the table.
It just wasn't on the table.
No,
all right.
and I
This is
didn't
where
think
it's going
about
down.
it.
Well, you had other things on your mind.
Other things on my mind. And I asked him, and this is to answer your question, Andrew, in terms of like, he didn't give a shit about how the head was going. No, I think he did, because I looked up at him and said, like, how is this? Or how am I doing? Or something like that. And he goes, fine.
God damn it.
So then, of course, I'm like, well, I'm terrible. That's what that
Oh, God.
means.
Here you go. Just trying to get the validation and just fine.
Failing. I'm just failing.
Fuck.
So I keep going. I continue, and I'm totally in my head being like, I'm terrible at this. I don't know what I'm doing.
Heartbroken, I'm guessing.
He isn't enjoying this. Right. This isn't as bonding and meaningful as he wanted it to be. Oh my God.
God damn it.
So finally, what feels like forever, he finally comes. And I remember it feeling like a very long time, which now, in retrospect, I don't know if it actually was or if
Probably
it was
5
just...
minutes.
It was an eternity. It was an eternity.
It felt like an eternity.
Yeah, then it was.
And he came, and I just like stopped moving. I just like kept my mouth like around his penis, and I was like, "Oh, I guess this is happening. I have to like catch this." And
Was there any heads up?
no, of course not. That would be too considerate.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Remember who we're dealing with here.
Exactly.
This is
So I like gather it in my mouth and like pull myself off of the dick, and I look at him. And in my eyes, I'm asking, like, what the fuck do I do with this?
Yeah.
And he looks at me and kind of shrugs. So I turn.
Takes a nap. Bye, no. Enjoy Dark Blue. I'm going for some
Makes himself a
disease.
sandwich.
Yeah.
And I turn and see the wall and just spit it on the wall.
Oh, God.
Yep. And those walls were like felt.
The carpeted type of walls. Oh, shit.
So we both see it land, and then we look at it, and it starts to slowly just fall down.
God, what a metaphor for just everything is just that.
It's beautiful. It was beautiful. So that was, and I at that point I was like, man, I just did something huge.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel good about myself, even though it went really weirdly.
Yeah.
But like I did that
But you
for the first
accomplished it.
time. Right. I conquered it. Not that I was thinking before this day, this is something I need to conquer. But suddenly it was like, yeah, I did that.
Carpe diem.
Carpe diem.
You know?
So we walk out of the movie theater.
You didn't stick around to finish.
Dark Blue.
I don't
Which,
think so.
by the way, I looked it up. Kurt Russell. It's a movie about Kurt Russell.
Oh, okay.
It's about a cop.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what was going on in the background was Kurt Russell, presumably,
Being a cop.
Yeah, being a cop.
I hope you get to meet him and you can tell him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No,
Thanks for the
you.
memory.
Anyone
Okay, so
else
you
in that
leave the
movie or
theater.
just Kurt
It
Russell?
was like Kurt Russell, Scott Speedman, and
Gilbert Gottfried.
Gilbert Gottfried. Now Brendan Gleeson, Ving Rhames,
sure. Good.
somebody named Corrupt, which this whole
That was a rapper.
this whole situation is just corrupt.
That's
this
true.
whole
They knew. They know.
Yeah. Okay, so you leave the theater.
I leave the theater, and I think we kind of like wandered around the mall for a little bit because the movie was almost over by the time we were done. Anyway, which shows how long it took him to convince me to do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You
it was
know?
probably like a hostage negotiation. He's like, listen, just stay calm. Everything's gonna be great. You're gonna feel so much better after you do
in
this.
2 hours, right? So yeah, we kind of moseyed around the mall, and then my mom came to pick us up, or pick me up, not pick me up. Pick me up. That would have been terrible.
Yeah.
But I get in the car, and I'm silent and kind of, feeling good about myself. And, yeah, my first day, that went well.
Yeah. Happy Valentine's Day.
Right.
Jesus.
So I get in the car, and my mom is just kind of looking at me, and she's like, your lips are a little red, honey. And I go, oh, they're really chapped. And I just like get my chapstick out and like put it on my lips. I like look out the window.
Nice.
Yeah, she's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, she knows.
Of course.
I'm like, no, she doesn't know. No one knows. I'm very smooth.
Hey, cool. Hey.
So then the next day, it was Sunday now. I go on AIM when I get up in the morning,
Fucking name.
feeling great about myself.
Yeah.
And I see he's online, and I'm like, ooh, yay. Like, chat him, and I'm like, hey, good morning. He's like, hey, BRB.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
I'm like, okay, he'll be right back. Cool. So
I'll just sit here waiting.
I'll just sit here not living my life.
Yeah.
And
God.
at the same time, his friend Alicia, who didn't go to our school, but I had met outside of school.
Sounds like trouble.
It sounds like trouble.
Yeah.
AIMs me or aims me or IMs me or whatever you want
Yeah.
to call it. And she's like, hey, so I hear you're dating this guy now. Insert name here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I know, it's really great. I'm really
Sort of
happy
magical.
about
Yeah,
it.
It's a really magical time.
It's really, we're really growing together and bonding. And she said, oh, well, we're dating.
Fuck.
So you might want to ask him about that. And I went, oh, okay, I will. BRB. So I go over to my chat with him. He hasn't said he's back yet.
Yeah.
But I, of course, send the question of, why does Alicia say you and her are dating? And he answers immediately. So clearly he never went anywhere with this phantom BRB
he
he
just set
gave
the
me.
tone.
No.
Right. So he was like, oh, well, we are dating. And I said, why didn't you tell me this? He said, well, I was waiting for the right time. And I said, how about before you convinced me to give you fucking head in a movie theater? He's like, yeah, I didn't feel right.
Oh my.
So now I'm pissed.
This is
I'm so angry and
Devastating.
humiliated.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, angry,
completely.
humiliated. All right. Yeah.
All the emotions. And I think I signed offline immediately and was just like, I need to leave this. And I went about my day and didn't tell anybody, didn't tell my mom, didn't whatever. And the next day to school, I get on the bus where 3 of my best friends also took the bus, Kyle Draper being one of them.
yeah.
And
The boob feel.
the
Yeah.
the feel up guy.
Yeah.
So
touchy.
I tell Draper and 3 of my other friends actually on the bus the whole story. And they're like, this is awful.
Yeah.
How dare he do this?
Completely.
Two of them are guys that I'm telling this to, and 2 are girls, and they're all having the same response, which was nice.
They're human beings.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
human beings with souls.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're like, I'm so sorry. Like, we won't tell anybody, I promise. Like this, whatever you need, we're here for you. I'm like, thanks. On the bus, though, is this guy. I'm gonna call him Douche.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Douche McGinty.
Douche McGinty. He was like in our circle of friends, but no one really liked him because he was a jackass.
Okay.
Okay.
And he overheard the whole thing.
Oh boy.
And later, during like second period, asked Draper, like, hey, Hallie told me all about what happened. Like, that's so sad. And Draper was like thinking, why would Hallie have told Douche McGinty?
Yeah.
But Douche McGinty was like, she didn't finish telling me the story, so what ended up happening? And Draper was like, oh, fuck. Well, I guess I'm going to inform him now, considering Hallie started telling him the whole story. Whatever, I guess she's fine with it.
Yeah.
So he ended up telling him, like, everything.
Oh boy.
What did you find out that it was him that? Because I feel like, oh man.
Well, I found out that other people knew
Yeah.
about an hour and a half later when I was
Jesus.
lining up for Spanish class, and all my guy friends were in line saying, am I next? Can I go to the movies with you?
Fucking hell.
when can we hang out?
Oh, boy.
Every guy in my class, and it was a tiny school. It was a tiny little private school. Really good people
Everybody
went
knows
there.
everybody's
Everybody knows
shit
everybody's
instantly.
shit. Yeah. And but like respectable kids too. That's like it drew really good people, and then this just took all
doesn't
that
matter.
away.
Middle
You know,
like that grade, that era of youth is just such
Ugly.
a Lord of the Flies situation. Mm-hmm. They latch onto anything, so nobody looks at them. So
Right.
They just,
Yep.
right.
And they also wanted head.
Yeah.
Oh, of
that
course,
too.
because we
Yeah.
were all getting to the age where it was
Right.
like
You
we're
start to-
feeling things and
Exactly.
we want to know
They're
Exactly.
confused and
you know, yeah. And they were like, "Oh, I guess Hallie's the go-to girl now. Let's literally like
Right.
take a number." And so then, like, my Spanish teacher let us in, and I'm mortified.
How did you not just hyperventilate? How did you not just worry you?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how I kept it together. Like me now,
It was probably just
would
shock.
leave.
It was probably just shock and adrenaline of just like, I don't wait, how is this happening? I'm
True,
guessing.
and I was a really good student, and so I think I was like, do the class right now, like do Spanish, and I was really good at Spanish, so I was like,
God.
I'm just gonna use this other language as an outlet, and then I had another class after that, and everyone was staring at me, and you know, my close friends were like really supportive and stuff, but there's
Yeah.
only so much they can do,
Right,
you know,
'cause
because
it's
there's
out.
no like, it's out, and there's no defending me. There's no like, oh no, she didn't do that.
Right.
It's like, no, it clearly happened, but
Yeah.
I also didn't know if the whole story was being told about how like terrible this guy had been to me.
Yeah.
Or if it was just Hallie
It was
blew
just
a
like
guy.
Hallie blew a
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So that was on Monday.
Fuck.
Over the next couple of days, it like died down at school, thankfully enough, and I don't remember really being like bullied about it, other than that first day when all the guys were like talking to me about it a lot.
Yeah.
After that,
were
it
they
kinda
just
was
asking
just-
questions? They were just doing that type of shit.
They were
Just-
more just like, I want to hang out with you, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
Fuck.
And some of them were my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I remember saying to a couple of them, like, really, why are you treating me like this? Like that, and it kind of took them out of it, and they're like, oh, I'm
Right.
sorry.
Yeah. It's
And I think that kind of helped, you know, eventually. But
Right.
by
that's Monday, and then
that was Monday. So
yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday kind of died down, and Thursday it was like not old news, but it was like we weren't really talking about it anymore. You know,
Right.
my friends were just no one was talking to this guy. Like none of my friends were talking to this
Yeah.
guy, and like half the school, and the school was like 70 people, or the grade was like 70 people, so half the people weren't even speaking to him. So like everybody had all this negative attention on him, which I was
Good.
like, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, of course.
That's-
So I was feeling safer. And I'm finally feeling a little bit better. And my dad and I have plans to go see a movie on Thursday after school. So he picks me up and we go see a movie. And I'm like, great, my first movie back.
Yeah.
You know,
Was it the same theater?
same theater. Because it's the local, it was like, I live down
Ground
the
Zero.
street from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my dad and I are driving to the theater. And he makes, instead of going straight, he turned right to go home because we literally lived like down the street.
Yeah.
So up until that point, I thought we were going to the
Right.
theater.
Yeah.
And suddenly we're going home. And I'm like, Dad, why are we going home? He goes, oh, I just forgot something at home. And I'm thinking, oh, it's a coupon for a movie because he's
Yeah.
like super Jewish with his money. So I was like, great, we're going to go get the coupon. We're going to go to the movie. He pulls into the garage and he goes, go ahead upstairs. I'm right behind you. I'm like, okay. I'm like, why? I don't know.
Yeah.
I go up the stairs from the garage into the first floor of the townhouse we were living in, and my mom is standing there
Oh no.
in tears. And I immediately am like, oh shit,
Oh no.
what's going on?
Did you
Wait,
think
wait.
blowjob? Did you think, oh God, it got
Do you think somebody got sick and died? Yeah.
No, I did not think it was as global as that.
Yeah.
I knew. I knew they knew. And I saw my mom.
Trapped like a rat.
Totally. I mean, I
God.
registered her pain, and then I heard the door close behind me, and I turn around and my dad's right
Oh,
behind
God.
me. And I'm an only child too. So
Yeah.
like this is life. And I'm trapped in between both my parents, looking at me with such disapproval and disappointment.
Oh God.
My dad says, sit down, we need to talk. My mom is sobbing.
Jesus.
Sobbing uncontrollably.
Jesus.
So I sit on the couch.
Yeah.
And I think my dad was standing and my mom was kind of like sitting on the table, kind of perching on the table, or the other way
Did
around.
she ever stop crying, or was she just crying the entire
She's pretty much crying the whole time.
That set the tone. That set the tone for the whole conversation.
Right.
talks for the peace negotiations? Oh my
And
God.
it started with this. My dad said, "We know what happened this weekend." And the first thing that came to mind was, oh, that my friend Rebecca thinks she's pregnant. So I said that and they were like, wait, what? I was like, yeah. Oh yeah. No, she told me that she might think, I don't know though. And they're like, wait a minute, this, because they were friends with the family. So they got really concerned suddenly. And I'm like, yeah, I bought
Did you
myself
totally
some
make that
time.
up?
No, it was
okay.
real. She had said to me, she thought she was pregnant. And I was like, but did you have sex? And she said, no. And I was like, well, you're a fucking idiot.
Oh, he's great.
But in the moment, I was like, I'm going to talk about this
Yes.
right now.
Yeah.
To my
Oh,
parents.
that is coming from your parents' angle. That's just the most confusing fucking labyrinth. All of a sudden,
It's a great left turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great deflect.
Yeah, and I saw all their panic about me go out the door.
Yeah, completely.
You know?
Brilliant. Brilliant
They're just like,
choice.
wait, whoa.
Because now,
That's
it could have been so
huge.
much worse, is what they're thinking.
Yeah.
See, this is smart. This is smart.
Thank you.
Really smart.
Thank you.
How much time did that buy you?
About
Was
a
it-
minute.
Oh, they're too good. They're
Yeah.
too good too. They're like, no, don't. No, we're not that. Okay.
Well, and finally my dad was like, no, wait.
Yeah.
We know what happened this weekend with you. And I went, oh, that.
Did you try and deny it at all or no?
I
Yeah,
couldn't.
you knew when your mom's just weeping, I guess.
They're staring at me going like, you're an idiot.
Right.
We know what happened. I'm like, well, yeah, that can only mean one thing.
Sure.
So I say, okay. And my dad says, because my mom can't speak yet. So my dad was just, speaking for them. My dad, and they're also divorced too.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Let
So
me
them being
say
in the
that.
same
Oh, wow.
place. Is,
Yeah. So when we pulled into
can't
the
deny that,
apartment and my mom was there, I was like, something's really
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
You know they're playing for keeps.
Exactly.
If they're working together.
Right.
Oof.
So my dad says, we know what happened. Walk us through everything. Don't leave anything out.
Oh,
Jesus.
And I'm thinking, why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why do you want to know those details about your small
Shame.
little girl?
Right.
Your poor
Shane,
daughter.
yeah, that's why.
Right.
Yeah.
So I go, okay. And I start from the beginning and I kind of start telling them like how we had started talking and hanging out a little bit and like what I thought was going on. Because at this
Right.
point, it was very clear to me that I had been completely humiliated, completely used and
Right.
manipulated in this conversation.
Yeah.
So I wasn't just going to tell them what happened that day in the movie theater. I wanted to like give them my case, you know?
And they already know this guy who's out for attention and stuff, so they know that too.
That he's not the greatest of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I lay my case, and when I get to like, well, then we wanted to see a second movie. Mm-hmm. My mom was like, so that's why you wanted to see a second movie. And I was like, well, I didn't know that this was gonna happen. You know, I was convinced.
We were in love.
No.
No, I know.
Never thought that. But I was like, I was convinced. And both my parents were like, how could you let this happen? How can you actually have believed him? And I'm like, and I looked at them and I'm like, you guys, I know now that it wasn't real. You know, I know what he said wasn't real. In the moment, though, I did. And I am humiliated from that. And so even in like talking about it with them, I was able to own a little bit more of it because I'd already been through a week of hell.
Right.
So I think it helped them understand that I didn't think this was okay.
Did they know that you'd been through the hell week at school, or did they?
I didn't know at that point if they had known or not, but I ended up telling them in
Yeah.
the story. But when I got to the point of, you know, and then I did it, my dad said, did he finish?
Oh, that's
Oh, God.
that's such a disturbing question, and it's I guess it's oh God.
And I said, yes.
Oh.
And my mom weeping.
Yeah, I was about to say your mom's just gotta be.
Dead inside.
Oh God.
So my dad says, and what did you do with it?
go. Jesus.
Wait.
And I'm hyperventilating now at this point.
Yeah, there's the
You know?
hyperventilating.
What did you
Right.
do with it?
And I said, oh, I spit it out. My mom said, oh, thank God. Weeping. I don't know. I guess swallowing at 13 was just too much for her to handle.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah,
without a doubt.
As a parent, you got to grasp onto whatever innocence
God.
is there. Because
Right, that's
really,
still
truly,
there.
all innocence in your life left in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
When your dad says, did the
What?
guy you were blowing finish?
Right.
And what did you do with the jizz?
Because it's not, it's more
That's
than...
a death of innocence.
Yeah, it is, because it's not the death of innocence. It wasn't when I gave head in the movie
No.
theater.
No.
Not at all.
No.
It is that moment with
Yes,
the dad.
because when you have to talk with your parents about it.
Yeah.
Oh, my
About the
God.
specifics.
Yeah.
And then my mom said, this is like one of the first things she actually, that I remember her actually saying to me of the whole
Right,
conversation.
Between the weeping. Yeah.
Right between the weeping. Did you use a condom?
What?
And all of my fear and anxiety of the situation like went out the door, and
Sure.
my logic clicked in, and I just went, no, why would I do that?
Right.
And she starts weeping and is like,
Jesus.
there's AIDS and STDs. And it's like, right, their generation
Oh, yeah.
has that
Yeah, yeah.
fear with it. So I
Okay.
get it now as an adult looking
Yeah,
back
yeah.
on that
Yeah.
moment. But in the moment I was like, I don't understand why she's so upset about this. Why would I use a
A
condom to do
latex
that?
blowjob?
No,
That
no one
sounds
does that.
horrendous.
Right, it sounds terrible.
Oh, my God.
So, that happens. And somehow in the conversation, we end up coming to like, well, what's my punishment going to be for
Right.
this? And my parents are
Other
like,
than this
well,
conversation,
other than this
'cause Jesus
fucking week of
Christ.
hell. And they both agree that I had been humiliated enough,
Yeah.
Yeah.
obviously,
By them as well with these questions.
Right.
Holy shit.
that they were like, why don't you just clean the windows for 2 weeks and we'll call it a day?
Fuck.
And that was my punishment from that. I mean, other than, the public ridicule.
Did they find out from one of your friends? How did they
Yeah, how did they find out?
how did they come across this information?
So it took me until 2 years ago, I think, either 2 or even a year. No, 2 years ago to find out. My parents
Really?
would not tell me.
Wow, they ain't no
Yeah.
snitch. Okay.
They wanted to protect the way that they found out, to respect that party or whatever. And at age 13, 14,
That was his deep throat?
Yeah, it is.
Which would be fitting. 'Cause-
right. You know what I mean? Because I'm 27 now. So yeah, it's been 13, 14 years since it happened. And I found out, like 2 years ago how it happened. And apparently, because I thought it was a friend of mine
Yes.
in school
Yeah,
that like
that's what I
got
was-
really freaked out about it maybe and told her parents, because again, like I was one of the first people to be
Yeah.
sexually active, and so there were a lot of like more, not conservative, but more conservative for 13, I get,
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
girls were scared of that. And I
Really?
mean, guys were kind of too, And
Definitely.
so it was like, okay, well, apparently a teacher called my dad
Oh, wow.
and they said, hey, there's a rumor going on about your daughter. You might want to check in. And that was all they said, says my mom. And apparently what happened is my dad went onto my computer to like see if there was any evidence of anything, because they didn't want to ask me if there was nothing to worry about. They really did
Right.
trust me too.
Yeah.
That's the thing, which is why this was like broke their heart and my soul. But going on your kid's computer if you have to, I get to a certain extent depending on the circumstances, and fine, they did it, whatever. But so my dad went on AIM and it's literally there. I said to this guy in a chat, like, why didn't you tell me you were dating Alicia before you convinced me to give you head in a movie theater?
wow.
Like, I spelled it out.
Literally. Yeah.
But my mom didn't want to tell me when I was like 18, 19, because my dad and I weren't very close at the time.
Yeah.
And she thought it might infringe on our relationship. And so I get that.
Right.
So it took her until I was like, 24, 25 years old to tell me. Yeah. And I remember there was like some party or something that happened like later that year that he and I were both at, and I was really uncomfortable with it.
Yeah,
but
I
like
think so.
all my friends were like, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine, you know. But so it like stayed with me for a while. And so I guess, you know, knowing that some teacher called my dad, I get it's the missing piece.
Yeah, yeah.
And so in a way it
Yeah.
is closure. I grew up that quickly.
Yeah, in that one moment.
Such a hellish
When you got to answer that. Because, yeah, I didn't. Well, because also it's just that period of time, you know, it's like you want the idea, you really want like sex or sexual activity, but then you also have no idea how to do it. And there's just a lot going on. Because for me, it was freshman year of high school where it was the first time I shaved my pubes. And I remember in 8th grade, one of my best friends, his friend, who I never really liked, like, you know, again, in 8th grade, he was just like
Good.
bragging about the fact
Anyone
he had
that's showing
pubes.
confidence in
Yeah, he was just like,
middle
yeah,
school is
man,
the new- yeah.
I've had pubes for 6 months or whatever. Like, how about you? And it's just like, I just got awkward. You know, I didn't want to
Yeah.
talk about fucking pubes.
No.
And I
Who
also don't think I
wants to
really
talk
had it.
about
Yeah,
pubes?
exactly. Yeah. Which again just goes back to the hell that is middle school. But then, you know, without realizing, they came in and I was like, all right, I'm a guy now.
Now I'm going to shave them away.
Yeah.
that makes
well,
no
because I had been
sense.
watching enough porn and, you know,
Sure,
like
sure.
I was just like, I got to trim them. Got to make them.
Time to clean house.
Yeah, clean house. Yeah, I got to look.
Manscape.
Good. Yeah, yeah. And so it was the first time I did it, and and I did it at like late at night downstairs.
Downstairs where?
on the coffee table. On just the coffee table.
In the kitchen.
Yeah.
In
With
the
the fridge
bathroom.
open.
In the bathroom.
Okay.
The pub. You know, like the
common bathroom.
the common bathroom.
Why not your own?
These are answers.
What
that
about
I-
the ages? Just
This
what is-
logic
Good
is.
question.
I think I was already downstairs because we only had one family computer at that point. So I probably,
Convenience.
you know,
God,
yeah.
you disgust me.
So anyway, yeah. So I do it in the bathroom downstairs, and I think maybe I tried it. No, this was the first time. So I think I just used scissors, or I may have put shaving cream and just tried to actually just shave it
God.
all off, which was
my
a terrible idea.
God.
But anyway, instead of putting it down the toilet, I just kind of washed it down the sink.
Smart.
God.
Again, answers I don't
know,
have an
I
answer
know.
for. Why I don't know.
Just
Right.
Jesus.
A level of stupidity that
Yeah.
you know.
Well, we just don't know. We don't understand these things.
Yeah.
You can't blame
I
yourself.
mean,
No,
that's,
no,
well,
it's
that's
an
common
experience
sense. I
thing.
should
It's,
have known that,
yeah.
I guess. But anyway, so I didn't even think anything of it, and I'm sure that I'm sure it looked terrible. The end result. I think I may have cut myself.
You're doing a dog grooming business down here? What's going on? Jesus.
Oh my god. Well, and did you really even have that much to shave?
It was like
I don't-
Charlie
I
Brown's
honestly
hair.
can't.
Yeah, was it just?
Yeah.
I can't speak
curly
to the. There was enough that putting shaving cream on it, like
God.
that was a stupid idea.
Right,
But I thought
right.
that there was enough there because I had nothing on my face.
Yeah,
like there was
yeah.
no need to shave my face. So I had never really shaved. But my first time shaving was my pubes.
Okay, so
Oh, so good.
So anyway, so it goes down the sink, and you know, I just kind of wash my hands of that. I'm like, all right, time to go to bed. And then the next morning, everybody's, you know, my mom and dad are downstairs. Everyone's in the kitchen getting breakfast and everything else, and my little brother and my dad goes into the bathroom, the same one, and I hear the toilet flush, and then the water come on to like wash his hands, and then the water stops, and then starts again, and then there's some like sounds, and I'm not really thinking. I think I'm, you know, I don't
yeah,
know,
you don't.
reading the
You're,
comics
Yes, no, you're not.
because I didn't think I'd, you know.
Of course not.
You didn't
And
think you did
so-
anything wrong.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
everything you did was fine.
Yeah, and then I just hear some like tampering and like, and then my dad comes out holding the pubes in a tissue. There wasn't a tissue, so like I
Okay,
clogged the
yeah.
sink clearly, and then he had used a tissue to pull out whatever was in there. and it was clearly just hair.
Oh my God.
And he
Just
walks
a
out,
bunch of pubes.
and he just looks at me.
He goes,
And
"You're
he's
not
like,
my
"What
son."
were you?"
He says, "Get out of my house.
He was just like, "What were you doing?"
Live under a bridge now. Get out."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just looked at him, and it was. I wish I could see my face. I'm sure it was mortified. Because
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I was just like, I was shaving.
Clean face. Yeah.
Yeah,
nothing on
and
the
then he's like, well, what? What were you shaving? And
Did he know, or is he just?
I don't
the
know.
Same type of what did you do with it type of question where he's
I
just
don't-
like, tell
it
me
just
the.
I
happened.
don't think he wanted to hear me say
Yeah.
pubes. I think it was just he just could, I just don't. It
can't
was the
fathom
morning.
what's
He
going
couldn't
on.
fathom what was happening. Yeah, exactly. It was just like early in the morning.
He's just
and-
frustrated and just God damn.
Yeah, and so he said, "What were you shaving?" And then I was like, everything." And then he just sort of looked at me, he just sort of looked at me with disdain.
Yeah.
Because again, it was clear I had nothing to shave on my face. Technically, maybe I could have shaved my arms, under my arms, or my legs.
Yeah.
But it was pretty clear, and he just sort of looked at me with disdain.
I know that look.
Yeah, and
We
then
all
just
do at
sort
this
of-
table. We all know
Yeah,
that
right.
look. That's
And then he just sort of nodded, and then went into the bathroom, and then I heard the toilet flush again, and then we just never talked about it again.
Oh my God. What were your mom and brother doing while this conversation happened?
I wish I knew.
I'm guessing your brother just and
Yeah,
your
my-
mom
my-
and your
yeah.
mom was probably just going. Like,
Oh, keep
Jesus.
cooking.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can say, and believe me, I never asked what they were thinking.
No.
I was in tunnel vision in that moment. I was just me and my dad locked in, and that pretty much set the tone for never really having, like, my dad just successfully avoided, at least in my recollection, successfully avoided all awkward sexually related conversations. He just was like, nope, we're just not going to talk about that.
Did your
I think
mom
it was-
ever talk to you about sex at all?
No, I mean, my mom in like 5th grade was just like, she got me the like what's happening to my body
Yeah,
book for
okay.
boys.
Did you get that too, Andrew?
No, but I remember
Yeah, I never
that book.
got anything.
Yeah. And it sounds like it would have been made in like the 60s
Yes.
or something,
Yeah.
but it was actually, it was the 12th edition or whatever. And
Did you find it informative and helpful?
I ran away literally every time she wanted to talk about sex or would pull out the book in like 5th and 6th grade. I just would run away, quite literally. And then, yeah, I think in like 7th and 8th grade, the book was still on my bookshelf, and I'd just like casually like, I guess I'll pick it up or whatever.
Look at those pictures.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, But I don't remember. Yeah, I mean, all the way through. And also, there was just such a lack of anything sexually related happening to me in high school that there wasn't that many opportunities.
Sure.
It was mainly, So, but we successfully avoided any conversation of sex, really, that I remember. And I think that just set the tone.
Yeah, that kind of would. It's because it's such a basic,
Yeah. Yeah, but it was
foundational
because
thing.
that was the only one that we had to that point. It was just so awkward and so embarrassing and just
Worse. Oh, it's
like,
humiliating.
it really was, because it was just like, because again, it wasn't as clear cut as yours, but it's just that moment of just
Not
like
much is.
no, but just that moment of like, yep, things are really changing now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, that's your wonder years. Those pube in the sink.
pubes in the sink.
Did my dad know? Just, oh God.
When you, like after that, did you
Yeah.
have any incident that also created something strange between you and your parents? Because I had 3. I had a year of 3. This whole head was 1.
Yeah.
Then I stole liquor out of my mom's cabinet a few months later.
That'll do it.
And then a few months after that, I cheated on a test, got caught, and then
God.
lied about it.
So it was your rebellious.
And it was
year.
just a year
They must
of
have been terrified.
8th to 9th grade. They were like, who is our child?
Right.
Because I was
Yeah.
a really good student, really respectful, but I was beginning to feel like I can do whatever I want.
You're testing
Whatever,
limits.
you know?
You're testing limits.
Exactly.
You're testing both like your moral limits and what you can get away with. You're testing like all those things. I was doing that constantly through middle school. I was constantly like, I remember when I would like leave to go and do stuff with friends, my mom would say, either be safe or like she also would say sometimes don't get caught, like because she just knew that we were up to doing something stupid.
Yeah.
I would almost rather that though. That the parent acknowledges like,
realistic.
fine,
It's
I
would tell her.
be a kid.
I would tell her when friends would spend the night. I would actually go up and tell her, "Hey, we're going to be sneaking out tonight." Just because, for many reasons.
it.
One is just because, like, if something happened, it's like, "Hey, we're in this together." Because I told you I was going to be sneaking out.
Yeah.
And two, because it's like just like a trust thing of just that type of thing. And it came back to help because I'd get blamed for stuff in the neighborhood, and I'd be like, "No, I didn't sneak out last night. I always tell you when I do." And she'd be like, "That's true. Damn it." It was like that, but
That's a great level of honesty.
yeah. But
Yeah,
like, and that's the
that
things we had. Yeah, we had my weirdest, conversation with the parent was like a very honest moment. It was I was living with another family at the time, senior year of high school, and I had called up my mom. She recently divorced my dad, and she just sounded like really bummed and everything. And I was like, "What did he do this time?" Because I knew it was something along those lines. She's like, "Oh, it's nothing."
What was he doing? I mean,
And did you have a level of honesty with your dad that you had with your mom?
Not really, not the same. No, but he was just up to just doing stuff and saying mean things now and then and doing that type of stuff. Just like divorce phase type of stuff.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
I guess you can say. But I just knew that he did something, so I was like, just tell me. I'm gonna find out at some point. And finally, she just did this long sigh, and she just goes, "His meth lab caught on fire."
what?
Yeah. And I didn't I knew that he was into some stuff, but I didn't know that. So that was my reaction. Is I just started laughing because I was like, because that was just fucking absurd. And after I stopped laughing, I didn't really know what to say, and there was some silence. I was like, "Well, is everyone all right in this meth lab?" And she goes, and she's like, "Yeah, his informant in the police department told him that they were going to raid it, so he set it on fire."
Oh.
Jesus.
Oh, well, that's fine then.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And I started laughing again. And my mom had nothing to do with any of this stuff.
Yeah.
She didn't know about it?
No, I don't think so. But I really don't think so.
She wouldn't
But no,
have
yeah,
outside.
she didn't. I don't think she knew. But and it was the first time that I had heard about it myself. And I remember I was just told her, you realize this is not normal, right? And they're just kind of yeah.
You said that to your mom?
Yeah. And it was, I think it was kind of his own kind of death of innocence, I guess, in a way too.
Totally.
Just oh fuck, I'm realizing this is not normal more than other people.
Were you laughing just because had he just done enough shit that you didn't think he could top
Yes. Yeah, it was
Yeah?
kind of that.
Oh, wow,
Yeah, it was kind of that. It was laughing or just why the fuck not? Sure.
Cherry on top of the situation.
Yeah, I was like, sure, why not? That works.
Wow. That's huge.
Wow.
I mean,
and it was also on the 6 o'clock news.
Oh, good.
In this
of it
pretty
burning down?
Yes, it was in a pretty major town, major city,
my
and I was like, okay.
what was your dad's name?
No. It was
Okay.
just that there was a meth lab fire. That's all.
God.
Yeah.
Oh my
I mean, this is the epitome of our parents are just people.
Oh
too.
God, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely.
You know? Depends on
No, I realized that
when we
definitely.
learn that
Yeah.
or
Right.
how
And
we
the
learn that.
circumstances of
Yeah.
learning
Wow.
that.
Completely, yeah, and I'd known that, but it was such a fine. For me, it was just more so just wow, I'm realizing this isn't normal faster than those around me, and that was the confusing thing.
Yeah,
But
because then your other friends can't necessarily relate to the rapid speed that you're growing up.
I kept everything a secret. There was a lot of shit. I basically kind of lived in secrecy for years because it's just why? What are they going to tell me that's going to help that
Right.
situation?
Nothing. They'll be like, "Do you want my popsicle?"
Yeah, exactly.
There's no Hallmark card for
that.
Sorry, your meth lab burned down.
Yeah.
Sorry, your
Happy
dad's
Christmas.
baking meth.
Yeah. But
Wow.
That's
But
heavy.
it was. But that's the thing is I kind of wish it was I don't know. I was gonna say I wish it was something more like pubes or something like that, but like at the same time, no, because
nobody wins in this conversation.
Nobody
We
wins.
all lose.
They're all
We're all losers.
I feel like I feel like
Yes.
the death sentence is just the most awkward thing you can imagine.
Yeah.
It's really
so
it's a shock to the system.
So where did that phone conversation go from there?
Yeah, right.
I think I just asked.
Are we at a mill?
Down,
I asked how the dogs were or something like it. I think it just went on as normal conversation after that. Yeah.
I gotta find more. I need to know more about your dad for the fact that this was not that shocking.
Oh yeah,
because I mean, in future episodes, we gotta come back to this.
yeah, we should. Yeah,
I mean, I think we have to. The fact that it wasn't that shocking that your father's meth lab burned down.
It added up. I think he might be allowed in the state of Oregon again. I don't know, but he was banned from the state of Oregon for a while. That's a whole other story. But yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna come back to this one.
Hey. Oh boy. Oh boy.
You opened up
I know.
a can here.
I know. But it's still, again, it's all about that weird period of everyone. Because it's, I think the most awkward conversations with their parents are the most human.
Mm-hmm.
Like your mom asking those questions of, did you use a condom?
Yeah.
Did you swallow it? That's so goddamn human, and that's such like it shows her fears so well. Like the condom one, it's weird to us, but there's so much foundation for it in her.
Right, there's so much
life.
context for her.
Yeah.
That. And I mean, yes, it's the most human that I had been probably with my parents up until that point too. I mean, even more so than when they told me they were going to get divorced, because it's like this, I had to engage. Because when they told me they were splitting up, I literally said, okay, can I go ride my bike? So that just shows how I handled that one. But this situation, you can't run. I can't deflect because it was about
you.
what I did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And like same with you, Joe, you couldn't be like, oh no, I'm going to play this off cool. My pubes are just in the sink for no reason. Like there's no way around it.
No. Yeah. Well, and because even, I mean, because all these conversations have to do with just, you're getting a sense of reality as to, like you guys said, like your parents are real normal people. They're real people.
Yeah.
They're
But
not
so
just
are
your
we
parents.
as we grew up.
Yes.
Oh no, exactly. So all the foundations that we knew for the first 14, 15, 16 years of our lives, those are also coming down. It's basically just like you're realizing it's like reliving the fact that Santa Claus isn't real almost like every week to a different varying levels of like, I always thought this was how things were, and then that's not how they were.
Yeah.
But even, I mean, like the one conversation when I realized my dad was actually like a person, was, like, because we definitely I butted heads a lot with my mom. And so there was a summer I went down to live with my grandparents in North Carolina. And like, I was screaming that I hated them. Like my parents, to them.
Completely.
And my dad just like, I think knocked on my door a little bit later. And like, I could tell like he was like kind of teary eyed. He was just like, if that's really how you feel, then, let's get you down to North Carolina for a couple weeks.
Wow.
And at the time, I was happy to be getting out of town, but I also like realized that like this is a human being, and I just hurt his feelings. There's not really anything worse you could say.
That's funny. Well, it's not funny, but that's interesting because I had kind of a similar thing. I went through a phase where I just hated my mom for no reason when I was 11, which was right when my parents split up. So it was really, really awful for her. I wanted nothing to do with her. I didn't want to be seen with her. I wouldn't let her go out in public with me. It was like done. And when I was 16, we were in our house and I came up to her completely out of nowhere. And at this point, we're like totally fine. I don't hate her anymore. And I go up to her and I say, Mom, I'm so sorry for how I treated you without reason or cause back then. I love you so much. You must know that. And she was like, oh my God, of course, of course. And, the hugging and the getting past that, it's like you said, you realize that you hurt someone's feelings with all your anger that you were just spewing everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
And realizing that with your parents is huge because it's like, all right, we can hurt them just as much as we think that they're all in control and powerful, but they're not, and we're not. And Yeah, I don't know. Ugh, parents.
Yep. Yeah, parents.
What do they do next?
Yep, I know.
God, they're the best. I remember the first time my dad told me he sold pills in college as a way to make money.
Yeah, see, I just never, I never really got those stories growing up. So I think that was the reason. It was sort of like life didn't really start until I met your mom, and then like you get little things here and there. But I mean, to be fair, I didn't ask either.
Yeah,
and so that's kind of what I've learned in the last couple of years. It's just like, oh,
you gotta,
yeah, because that's just how it was. I just didn't know.
I totally asked.
Yeah, because I was too self-involved. I didn't even think about it. I was doing my own thing. I was like, and again, it gets back to the taking a long time to realize, like, oh, these are people.
Yep.
Right.
But anyway,
right.
I feel good.
Yeah,
I feel great.
Good.
I'm gonna have lunch with my dad after this now, so that's
that's
really
awesome.
Enjoy that.
great.
That
thing.
is fantastic. You'll have to bring it up.
God, I honestly was thinking about that. Like, he's gonna be like, "Oh, what were you doing this morning?"
Well, still some tales.
Oh, you should. Just so you can text me and tell me how it goes.
Okay, I'll do it for you guys.
Yes,
I'll do it for this.
Please
So we can do a
I'll
follow-up.
do it for this.
All right, well, until next time.
Until next time, here's I have some advice. Women, just don't listen to guys if they try to convince you to do things. Don't do it. Don't do it.
All right. That's got a nice ring to it.
I feel like,
Put that on a bumper sticker. Bad Times, Good Stories podcast. Women, don't listen
Don't
to
listen
it.
to men.
It flows really nice.
If they try to convince you to do things. ...
Leave that up to interpretation.
Yes.
That was the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to Hallie, all these years later, for coming on. It meant a lot then, and it means a lot now. Hallie's one of my favorite people in the world, and I hope it made you laugh a lot. Here we are. Again, it is Christmas. There's a giant tree there. You may ask why I'm at the mall. I do my Christmas shopping on Christmas Day when everything's closed. I just break into all the stores and then take whatever I want. So that's what I am prepping to do. Just kind of casing the joint right now. As you can see, it's not too busy, given that it is Christmas. Anyway, I hope that you have a Merry Christmas and perhaps embrace the morals of the holiday better than I do. Once again, you can check out badtimesgoodstoriespod.com for past episodes, merch, and a link to the Patreon page. So I hope you have a joyous, happy, wonderful Christmas, and until next Wednesday, keep laughing.